Hi everybody, I'm Kevin, as you said in the introduction. Yeah, yes, work for Austin Consultants. I did work for NI, some of you might have known me from NI, I think I recognise some of you from some of the courses that I taught them. But seeing as we're kind of a bit behind schedule, I won't go on too much. Basically, my presentation is about a task that I was given. It was to run LabVIEW as cheaply. LabVIEW's not cheap, but as cheaply as possible on a target of some description that was as small as possible, kind of the parameters that I was given. So I kind of said about it, not really, I kind of knew what NI had as tools that might allow me to do this, but as I said, it needed to be cheap as well, so we'll take a look. So the first thing that I kind of considered when I started my project was, well, how do I actually want to run LabVIEW? Because you can run LabVIEW on a computer, as I'm sure you've seen, you can develop LabVIEW code, and all's great. But also, there's kind of the RT side and more kind of embedded type targets, like a compact Rio, for example, or a single board Rio. And that's kind of still running LabVIEW, but not in kind of a development environment. So I kind of had to have a bit of a think as to, well, which one. For this presentation, I don't want to kind of point you down a particular avenue, but more so to just kind of be aware of these kind of options. So as I said, I kind of looked at the NI solution, kind of first of all to see, well, I'm using LabVIEW, NI equipment, well, that would just work really nicely together and it wouldn't really be too much of a headache. The reason I didn't go for the NI solution was the kind of cost of the products. So I've got a single board Rio system on chip/module, were kind of the things I kind of looked into, but I didn't go down that avenue in the end. If I did, this would be the end of my presentation, it'd be really short and I could sit down. It got a bit more interesting. So after kind of ruling that out, I kind of thought, okay, well, it needs to be cheap. So if I was to run this on a PC, for example, the easiest thing, I already had that hardware, I didn't need to go out and buy anything else. How can I run it cheaply? Now, Windows is the OS I guess most people use to have LabVIEW in their kind of day-to-day jobs. But Windows comes with a licensing cost. You have to buy Windows to be able to use it. So I kind of thought, okay, that's kind of out the window. I kind of really use Mac and Linux, and I am not really an Apple person, to be honest with you, and you have to pay for that. So it left me with Linux. So I wanted to see, well, can LabVIEW run on Linux was my next question, because I've never done it and I had to research it. And on the NI website, this is literally a snippet of what I pulled from ni.com when I started researching this. And yeah, LabVIEW can run on Linux. It's not every single version, every single distribution of Linux doesn't support it, but this is kind of the minimum hardware requirements to run LabVIEW for Linux on a system. So my laptop met this, and I'm sure most people's laptops would meet this. Now the spec of what's required isn't particularly high, so that was kind of a bit of a thumbs up for me, because there may be some other devices out there that are kind of less powerful than my laptop, but may still be able to run Linux and still be able to run LabVIEW. So I was kind of started this, and I'm in a good position. So I kind of went on and did a bit more research to see, well, Linux is a black hole to me, really. When I started this, I had no knowledge of Linux, never used Linux, and was kind of, okay, to me it was this thing that hardcore coders just sit down and they're the only ones that know how to use Linux. But it turns out it's not. I had a bit more success. So I looked on the NI website, as I said, and I had a look to see, well, which distributions of Linux could I use? Because the only one that I'd kind of really heard of and kind of dabbled with was Ubuntu, and well, it didn't appear in the list, so I was a bit, darn, why is it not in the list? But it gave me a good idea of what was available and to try something else. Now, I haven't used any of these distributions before starting this, and kind of saw Red Hat and thought, I don't know what that is. Scientific Linux, I've kind of heard of it, but never really used it, or OpenSUSE, or OpenSUSE, I've heard it pronounced so many different ways. I'm going to go with OpenSUSE for my presentation. I thought, well, this sounds good, let's just take a look at that one. So kind of finger in the wind a bit, and really, and went for that one. So I thought, let's see how this goes. So I've got just a really short demo to kind of show you, because my fears of using Linux were it was going to be all scary and I'm going to need to have a huge learning curve to see how it all worked. And when I actually downloaded the ISO image for OpenSUSE, I think it was 13.1 I actually ended up downloading, and putting it into a virtual machine, I was quite surprised with what I found, to be honest. Before I do the demo, has anyone used OpenSUSE or Linux environments? Okay. Quite a few people. Cool. So I've got a virtual machine just down here, and I've already fired it up and started the machine up, but this is literally a brand new install that I did yesterday on the virtual machine, and this is what kind of comes out of the box with OpenSUSE. So if you imagine me sat there at my desk kind of thinking, oh, this is going to be a bit scary, and this is what I saw. And it was really, really similar to my experience with Windows. It kind of had the kind of start menu type thing in the bottom corner, and it kind of was really intuitive to just go through and see kind of what applications and things were there. Yes, it has like the kind of terminal. You can send all your commands to the terminal, but what I came to learn after a bit more research was you don't need to use the terminal for everything. There's some tasks, yes you do, but a lot of it is in the actual applications, and a lot of the configurations are in there. So you don't have to remember all these commands. You can kind of go to, I guess, the equivalent of kind of like control panel equivalent in Linux, and kind of make changes, make tweaks, and things like that. So once I had OpenSUSE installed, I thought, okay, well, on the NI page it says it supports LabVIEW. So I had a little bit of a look around and then realized my version of LabVIEW that I had wasn't actually supported. So I had LabVIEW for Windows, which is what we have throughout the company, and it's for Windows. So I had to get in touch with NI, which is cool, and just as part of our licensing that we had, turned out, hey, I could get LabVIEW for Linux, which was great. So ordered the discs, they came, and then installed it. And there's a really, really easy kind of instructions with how to install it. So I installed it, and I'm not going to really bore you with it, but I'll just open it up, and it is the same experience that you would get with Windows. The thing to note, I say it's the same, sorry, there's things to note, not every single toolkit and driver is supported in Linux, that's supported on Windows. And when I was actually using this for my project, I only required the DAC and the Visa driver, and they were both supported under Linux. So I'm not saying you should run out and install Linux on your machine, because as I said, it's not fully supported. I was hoping it was going to start whilst I was talking, but the virtual machine's a bit slow.
Got a question for the NI guys, if it's okay for that.
Yeah, of course.
In terms of the licensing costs for Windows, is what's included on hourly at Renishaw Innovation. How does that vary between different companies? So, Kevin just said it was included in the licensing for them. So, is it included in ours? How does everyone have it? Whatever platform you want to go.
I have a disk.
Sorry?
I have a disk. Robson gave it to me, so I guess we have it.
I think we do. I think it's kind of a case-by-case basis, but I think for the majority of enterprise agreements we will include it.
What about just, I don't know if you guys have enterprise agreements in your companies or?
We can't even afford to mention these contracts, so I'm only here, I mean, just the language, really.
I'll get one clarification. When you get a license of LabVIEW as a standalone seat, you get a license for LabVIEW on that operating system. So when you buy the Windows version, your serial number works for the Windows version. The Mac and Linux products, they don't go through the same activation wizard. So you know, you kind of re-agree the license agreement by getting the Mac and Linux version. So explain how you're supposed to use it. And don't do that discount for everyone, because technically it doesn't impact the license. For some people, they think they want Linux, Linux, but they actually don't. When we can actually start talking about the connectivity they want and what they want to attach to. But if you wanted LabVIEW Windows and LabVIEW Linux, two separate licenses, unless you have a contract. Yes.
Yeah, I think we need to take a look. If there's kind of a specific need or use case of Renishaw, we probably just need to dig into it and make sure that it's included.
So yeah, it's loaded LabVIEW, and I mean, yeah, so I won't go into LabVIEw. You've all seen LabVIEWs in time, but you can run LabVIEW as development. So this was kind of great for where I was in my project. I kind of now proved the concept that LabVIEW will run under Linux, and this kind of then left me kind of thinking, okay, well, this is still running on my laptop under a virtual machine. I now want to run LabVIEW on some target that doesn't cost how much my laptop costs. That's going to be a lot cheaper. Let's quickly hop back to my presentation. So this was just a shot that I pulled from NI's website when I was searching for Linux. And the bit that I wanted to point out is it is different. The OS choice was for Linux as opposed for Windows. So there is a difference. And again, for Mac, I'm not really talking too much about Mac, but they are separate licenses on there. And this was just a snippet from the website. So as I said, I wanted to take my LabVIEW now that I have and know that it will run under Linux and actually put it onto a target of some description. So in my spare time, my hobby is programming. That's what I do. It just so happens that's my job as well now. So I kind of was familiar with some of the platforms that were out there that perhaps would be great if I could put LabVIEW code down to them. So I've got a Raspberry Pi, Arduino, and a BeagleBone, there's the black one at the top. Now, when I started this project, and I will come back to this, there wasn't anything that directly supported running LabVIEW on these, but towards the end of the presentation I'll talk more about it. But in the past, one of the projects that I had worked on was with the Arduino and making that talk to LabVIEW itself. Now, the Arduino board itself has an Atmel microcontroller on there, and you can write C code that will happily run on them. So, the way I used it in my project before was I wrote some C code that effectively interpreted a message that I sent from LabVIEW over a serial line to my Arduino. The Arduino then did something with that message. But that wasn't truly what I wanted to achieve. I didn't want to use C, I didn't want to use something else, I just wanted to use LabVIEW, and I wanted to run it on a target. Now again, in that project, in order for that communication to work, the board had to be tethered to my PC. And again, I wanted something that was completely standalone. And as I said, when I wrote this, when I started this research and wrote my blog post about this, nothing existed, but we'll revisit that. So then since my research again, the Intel Edison came out. Has anyone had a play with the Intel Edison? Or heard of it? Cool. So the Intel Edison kind of caught my ear a little bit because it has an x86 architecture processor on there. Now the requirements to run Linux, it will run on an x86 architecture processor. Now I haven't dived too much into the Intel Edison or done any work with it at all, so I can't say for sure if it will run OpenSUSE or Red Hat or Scientific Linux. And then even if it could, I don't know then if it would be able to run LabVIEW, so I just don't know enough about the product. But that would be something really exciting for me to kind of have a look at and research. I mean, for the price point, £40 to £50 for an Intel Edison, well, this could be a cool product. Some of the other options that I did come across, so I kind of looked at some targets that are traditionally kind of more embedded kind of thing, and you can have a microcontroller and get kind of quite good clock rates on it. But the other thing that I looked at was kind of a mini PC, because these are available on say dabs.com, that you can pick these up. They do cost £200 upwards, depending on the spec that you get. But again, these platforms are small kind of handhelds. You can hold it in your hand, and they can run Windows. They'll definitely be able to run Linux on there as well. And you could run LabVIEW in a development environment, and perhaps this could be suitable for an application. And I don't know. As I said, I don't kind of want to say that one idea is right. I just kind of want to throw some ideas out there. So I continue my research. Okay, this mini PC is kind of getting to where I want to be. The price isn't crazy bad. It's still the cost of a laptop pretty much, but it is small. And I thought, well, there must be some cheaper out there. So a little bit more research. I came across 2 boards, one called the Gizmo and one called the Minomax, which both can run Windows on it, both have x86 architecture processors on it, and they seem to do the job. So I had to make a decision between the two, and it came down to, well, which one was in stock at the time. The Gizmo board was in stock, so purchased one of those and saw what it could do. I did have a couple, which I'll pass around. So it was, I think it's on the next slide, if I'm not mistaken, it was like $180 for the price point for them. So what I'm passing around, the red board is the Gizmo 1, which is the first revision, which is a board that I actually used because that's what was available at the time when I started my project. And the green board is the Gizmo 2, which is their newer board, which has a higher spec, basically, but essentially is the same thing. Sorry, I was wrong, it's $199, and at the time the conversion was about £127 in the UK. So again, the price is coming down from where I was, but it's still not close enough to the kind of cost of an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi, which are about, say, £20, which is still really, really cheap for kind of what I was looking for. So I won't go through the specs, but if anyone is really interested in these products, then maybe we can have a chat after, but the kind of specs are there. Also, since my research, they brought out the Minomax board, which is more comparable to the Gizmo 2. Again, it's kind of a mini PC, but the specs, again, I won't go too much into it. Now, I haven't actually run Linux on this board. I don't actually have one of these boards. I haven't tried it, so it could be another very good thing to try. So we're still kind of teetering, even with this board, around kind of £88. And I was kind of, at this point in my project, I had kind of proved the concept. LabVIEW can run on the Gizmo. It's still relatively cheap, relatively small. It's running under an OS as opposed to kind of an embedded target, which for my application was absolutely fine. And I kind of left my research there for a little bit. Carried on with other things, and then something exciting popped into my LinkedIn. And I got really, really excited when I heard about this. So a company in the US called TS Experts came up with a compiler that could take LabVIEW code, compile it down to an Arduino, and you could then run the Arduino headlessly. Now there is a licensing cost for this. I don't know what that licensing cost is, or I haven't even played with this myself, but it sounds really exciting. If you can now take LabVIEW code and put it on an Arduino and run that headlessly, on Amazon, I think you can pick up an Arduino for about £5. So that's pretty cheap. As I say, I don't know how powerful it is in terms of the compiler and what LabVIEW code you can compile or anything like that. That would definitely be kind of, if I've got some time, my next thing I'd love to research.
Quick comment, I'm pretty sure this tool is actually demonstrated at NI LabVIEW on the keynote stage. They usually have kind of a section where they're talking about tools that have been posted on the LabVIEW Tools network, and they definitely had a tool that allowed you to compile LabVIEW code onto an Arduino, and I'm pretty sure this is it. So yeah, it was demonstrated and it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it really does. I really want to get my hands on it. Hi, Larry.
From the demos I've seen of this, I think the way it works is it doesn't actually use your standard LabVIEW library for compilation, so you can't, for example, put down a while loop. You've got to put down a special Arduino while loop, which then contains special Arduino functions. So ultimately, it might be this will almost, you might as well learn to see.
It's like a library for Arduino and then compile it together.
I guess though, it would be more, if you're going to use the LabVIEW programming and not a C programmer, putting down a while loop for the Arduino is going to be just as intuitive as putting the standard while loop on LabVIEW. As I haven't played with it, but I imagine it's not hugely different from...
Well, it looks pretty much the same, yeah.
Sure, so it's kind of decisions, but yes, you're right, you could learn C.
What I was getting at was it's not as clever as being a new physical compiler for LabVIEW. It's just a wrapper around C code that is not compiling.
Cool.
I think the main point out of that one is the same way you can transfer code between FPGA and RT and all the rest with the same LabVIEW code, you can't necessarily do this.
Yeah.
That would be right.
I would say the power of this though is, if you could put down even a special Arduino while you still put them in parallel, and then compile it down to C code parallel threads, that would still be the power of LabVIEW when programming, because if you know programming parallel threads in C would be tricky.
Yeah.
So even though it's an intermediary layer, if you can still get the graphical system design approach, it might still be pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool. Great discussion. So as I say, I saw this come in on my LinkedIn page, and then I was kind of really excited, like, yes, let's go, I want to play with this, how can I get it, when can I get it, and then other projects got in the way, such as having a job, unfortunately. And then a few months passed, and I was thinking, okay, I haven't had a chance to play with it, and then another cheeky little message came into my LinkedIn page, which talked about Raspberry Pi, and having a compiler for the Raspberry Pi. Now, the Raspberry Pi, in my opinion, is more powerful. In fact, it's more powerful than an Arduino, and it already has some I/O on there as well. We've got USB, Ethernet, and things like that compared to the Arduino. So this kind of caught my eye a little bit more as being, oh wow, this is awesome. And unfortunately, we have to wait for it. It looks like it's going to be a Christmas present, according to our website, December 2015. But this could be cool as well. So I really want to get my hands on kind of either of them. So this is the end of my presentation. As I say, I hope I haven't kind of said one way or something's better than the other. Hopefully you've kind of just got a bit of insight to what I did as my project, some of the things that I learned, but also some of the technology that's out there and how we can use kind of third-party tools, but also use this great environment that is LabVIEW to help the project. And yeah, hopefully it's given some insight. So if there's any questions or if any discussion, then I'm happy to questions.